those vegan guys. Thank you.
Hello, you incredibly beautiful bunch of psychos. I said that because you follow this channel and, you know, a bit crazy around here. So in recent videos, I have confessed, it's not like it's anything I could hide, I have confessed my propensity to garner as much attention as possible. Actor, drag queen, poet, writer, gay man, vegan cook. Of course I like attention. And I also, as highlighted quite recently in our live video, which if you didn't see, it's quite fun. We did a live chat and mukbang. I'll link it up there. And somebody asked in there, what you're reading at the moment? And I mentioned this book, which is Seneca, On the Shortness of Life, or Life is Long if you know how to use it. She struggles, and it's 34 pages. The section on the shortness of life, and I've thought many times. I've started reading it. In fact, I've got to a certain point there. Got a few pages in. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice actually to share the experience? Therefore, I get attention, I read something, and you read it too, with me, because I read it out. I've mentioned it before, I mentioned it with The Universe Doesn't Give a Flying About You, which is a free PDF book you can download, just Google it, it's amazing, it's only 14 pages. But let's read about Seneca, shall we? Throughout history, some books have changed the world. They have transformed the way we see ourselves and each other. They have inspired debate, dissent, war, and revolution. They have enlightened, outraged, provoked, and comforted. They have enriched lives and destroyed them. Now Penguin brings you the works of the great thinkers, pioneers, radicals, and visionaries whose ideas shook civilization and helped make us who we are. The Stoic writings of the philosopher Seneca offer powerful insights into the art of living and the importance of reason and morality, and continue to provide profound guidance to many through their eloquence, lucidity, and timeless wisdom. So this book is broken down into 3 sections: On the Shortness of Life, which is what we're going to read, Consolation to Helvia, and On Tranquility of Mind, which is something we might read in the future. But let's have a read of this. Most human beings, Paulinus, a friend of Seneca, complain about the meanness of nature, because we are born for a brief span of life, and because this spell of time that has been given to us rushes by so swiftly and rapidly that with very few exceptions, life ceases for the rest of us just when we are getting ready for it. Powerful straight away. Nor is it just the man in the street and the unthinking mass of people who groan over this, as they see it, universal evil. The same feeling lies behind complaints from even distinguished men. Hence the dictum of the greatest of doctors, life is short, art is long. Hence too the grievance, most improper to a wise man, which Aristotle expressed when he was taking nature to task for indulging animals with such long existences that they can live through 5 or 10 human lifetimes, while a far shorter limit is set for men who are born to a great and extensive destiny. Let's change that to people. I should imagine men will be mentioned a lot. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all invested. But when it is wasted in heedless luxury and spent on no good activity, we are forced at last by death's final constraint to realise that it has passed away before we knew it was passing. So it is, we are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. Just as when ample and princely wealth falls to a bad owner, it is squandered in a moment, but wealth, however modest, if entrusted to a good custodian, increases with use, so our lifetime extends amply if you manage it properly. Why do we complain about nature? She has acted kindly. Life is long if you know how to use it. But one man is gripped by insatiable greed, another by a laborious dedication to useless tasks. One man is soaked in wine. Does that read? Another sluggish with idleness. One man is worn out by political ambition, which is always at the mercy of the judgment of others. Another, through hope of profit, is driven headlong over all lands and seas by the greed of trading. Some are tormented by a passion for army life, always intent on inflicting dangers on others or anxious about danger to themselves. Wow, this fella. Some are worn out by the self-imposed servitude of thankless attendance on the great. I talk like this in modern day vernacular. Anyway. Many are occupied by either pursuing other people's money or complaining about their own. Guilty of the complaining. Many pursue no fixed goal, but are tossed about in ever-changing designs by a fickleness which is shifting, inconstant, and never satisfied with itself. Some have no aims at all for their life's course, but death takes them unawares as they yawn languidly. So much so that I cannot doubt the truth of that oracular remark of the greatest of poets. It is a small life, it is a small part of life we really live. Indeed, all the rest is not life, but merely time. Vices surround and assail men from every side, and do not allow them to rise again and lift their eyes to discern the truth, but keep them overwhelmed and rooted in their desires. Never can they recover their true selves. If by chance they achieve some tranquility, just as a swell remains on the deep sea even after the wind has dropped, so they go on tossing about and never find rest from their desires. Do you think I'm speaking only of those whose wickedness is acknowledged? Look at those whose good fortune people gather to see. They are choked by their own blessings. How many find their riches a burden? How many burst a blood vessel by their eloquence and their daily striving to show off their talents? How many are pale from constant pleasures? How many are left no freedom by the crowd of clients surrounding them? In a word, run through them all, from lowest to highest. One calls for legal assistance, another comes to help. One is on trial, another defends him. Another gives a judgment. No one makes his claim to himself, but each is exploited for another's sake. Ask about those whose names are learned by heart, and you will see that they have these distinguishing marks. X cultivates Y, and Y cultivates Z. No one bothers about himself. Again, certain people reveal the most stupid indignation. They complain about the pride of their superiors because they did not have time to give them an audience when they wanted one. But can anyone dare to complain about another's pride when he himself never has time for himself? Yet whoever you are, the great man has sometimes gazed upon you, even if his look was patronising. He has bent his ears to your words. He has let you walk beside him. But you never designed to look at yourself or listen to yourself. So you have no reason to claim credit from anyone for those attentions, since you showed them not because you wanted someone else's company, but because you could not bear your own. I should have liked to have drunk tea and chatted with this man. Even if all the blight intellects who ever lived were to agree to ponder this one theme, they would never sufficiently express their surprise at this fog in the human mind. Men do not let anyone seize their estates, and if there is the slightest dispute about their boundaries, they rush to stones and arms, but they allow others to encroach on their lives. Why? They themselves even invite in those who will take over their lives. You will find no one willing to share out his money, but how many does each of us divide up his life? People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. So, I would like to fasten on someone from the older generation and say to him, I see that you have come to the last stage of human life. You are close upon your 100th year or even beyond. Come now, hold an audit of your life. Reckon how much of your time has been taken up by a moneylender, how much by a mistress, a patron, a client, quarrelling with your partner, says wife, punishing your slaves, dashing about the city on your social obligations. Consider also the diseases which we have brought on ourselves, and the time too which has been unused. You will find that you have fewer years than you reckon. Call to mind when you ever had a fixed purpose, how few days have passed as you had planned, when you were ever at your own disposal, when your face wore its natural expression, when your mind was undisturbed. What work you have achieved in such a long life. How many have plundered your life when you were unaware of your losses. How much you have lost through groundless sorrow, foolish joy, greedy desire, the seductions of society. How little of your own was left to you. You will realize that you are dying prematurely. So what is the reason for this? You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you. You don't notice how much time has already passed, but squander it as though you had a full day and overflowing supply. Doesn't say day, sorry. Full and overflowing supply. Though all the while that very day which you are devoting to somebody or something may be your last. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. That bears reading again. You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. You will hear many people saying, when I'm 50 I shall retire into leisure. When I'm 60 I shall give up public duties. And what guarantee do you have of a longer life? Who will allow your course to proceed as you arrange it? Aren't you ashamed to keep for yourself just the remnants of your life, and to devote to wisdom only that time which cannot be spent on any business? How late it is to begin really to live just when life must end. How stupid to forget our mortality and put off sensible plans to our 50th and 60th years, aiming to begin life from a point at which few have arrived. You will notice that the most powerful and highly stationed men let drop remarks in which they pray for leisure, praise it, and rate it higher than all their blessings. At times they long to descend from their pinnacles, if they can in safety, for even if nothing external assails or agitates it, high fortune of itself comes crashing down. Eve's still there, bless you. I'm right enjoying this, actually. I'll do a couple more pages. I won't make it dead long. This might have to be a 2 or a 3-parter. The deified Augustus, to whom the gods granted more than to anyone else, never ceased to pray for rest and to seek a respite from public affairs. Everything he said always reverted to this theme, his hope for leisure. He used to beguile his labours with this consolation, sweet though false, that one day he would live to please himself. In a letter he wrote to the Senate, after he promised that his rest would not be lacking in dignity nor inconsistent with his former glory, I find these words: "But it is more impressive to carry out these things than to promise them. Nevertheless, since the delightful reality is still a long way off, my longing for that much desired time has led me to anticipate some of its delight by the pleasure arising from words. So valuable did leisure seem to him that because he could not enjoy it in actuality, he did so mentally, in advance. He who saw that everything depended on himself alone, who decided the fortune of individuals and nations, was happiest when thinking of that day on which he would lay aside by his own greatness. He knew from experience how much sweat those blessings gleaming through every land cost him, how many secret anxieties they concealed. He was forced to fight first with his fellow countrymen, then with his colleagues, and finally with his relations, shedding blood on land and sea, driven to fight in Macedonia, Sicily, Egypt, Syria, Asia, almost every country. He turned his armies against foreign enemies when they were tired of shedding Roman blood, while he was establishing peace in the Alps and subduing enemies, establishing in the middle of his peaceful empire, while he was extending his boundaries beyond the Rhine, the Euphrates and the Danube. I don't know why I have trouble with that word. At Rome itself, Murena, Capio, Lepidus, Ignatius, and others were sharpening their words against him. Nor had he yet escaped their plots, where his daughter and all the noble youths bound to her by adultery, as though by an oath, kept alarming his feeble old age, as did Iolus and a second formidable woman linked to an Antony. He cut away these ulcers, limbs and all, but others took their place, just like a body with a surfeit of blood, which is always subject to a hemorrhage somewhere. So he longed for leisure, and as his hopes and thoughts dwelt on that, he found relief for his labours. This was the prayer of the man who could grant the prayers of mankind. I think, actually, 20 minutes is quite enough of that, isn't it? And that's ended on a good line. So he longed for leisure, and as his hopes and thoughts dwelt on that, he found relief for his labours. This was the prayer of the man who could grant the prayers of mankind. So there is going to be a part 2. Who knew? I'll take these off now. It's still on me, Lucy. I bet you were on the book or the cup, weren't you? Or the cupboards at the back. Was she? On everything but me? Yes. That's like 7 pages of Seneca on the shortness of life, alternatively titled. Life is long if you know how to use it. I'll probably read all of that again, actually, or just listen to myself read it to let that kind of soak in. But there seem to be a lot of powerful statements which, just because they're kind of written in a different vernacular, doesn't mean that they're not exactly the same as some of the things we're saying these days about how we waste our time. I've mentioned it many times in vlogs. We waste our time on, we do it too, but we try to have respite moments from life rather than all respite, all, you know, enjoyment and box sets and idolisation of footballers and pop stars and there were a lot of things like that kind of mentioned. Yeah, powerful little book. It would be remiss of me to do anything book related and not to mention the library is open, who I'm going to link up there. The lovely Stuart, who's best friends with Crouping Miasma from the Vegan Queens, does a channel all about books. Go and have a look. Speaking of the Vegan Queens, I'll link their channel up there. They have these fortnightly chats, or sometimes they're political, sometimes they're passionate, sometimes just daft and funny, but they're always quite interesting. Well, I've got the Vegan Queens as well. Hope you enjoyed that. I did. Yeah, I did. I like to read out anyway, and it's nice to do that for a vlog, and so that we share the experience of this book. So, Seneca on the shortness of life, a reading, part 1. Thanks very much for joining me. I really enjoyed that. Thank you. See you again very soon. Until then, please be excellent to yourselves and each other. Oh, what an interesting man.